Continuing on, actually right next to Alma Thomas, these two call boxes are side by side at the intersection of 13th and G. This is Flora Molton, again, another figure who I think is probably a little more micro specific to Washington, D.C. She was born in Louisa County, Virginia. She was born partially blind. She was the daughter of a preacher, and she's just sort of raised around a lot of gospel and praise music. She sort of picks up singing. She picks up the guitar. She actually plays slide guitar, and she would often play the slide with a knife. That's how she sort of learned to play it, although you can actually see she has an actual sliding instrument in this image. She would tape her tambourine to her foot, and she'd sort of accompany herself on the tambourine while she played. She moves to DC in the 1930s. This is the Great Depression. She's looking for opportunity. She's looking for work, and she sets up and starts to sing on the streets when she's in her 20s. And this is what she's going to do for the rest of her life. She starts at 7th and F, so right in the heart of downtown, start playing for office workers as they come and go. Eventually, she'll relocate to 11th and F, and that's really going to be the permanent spot for her for the last 30, 40 years. She builds up such an audience that people kind of go out of their way to see her, particularly as we move into the 1960s and we have the upheaval of the war in Vietnam and the civil rights movement. She draws a pretty strong youth following, people sort of seeking her out. I love this where she sort of talks about these young people watching her sing. She sings what she calls spiritual and truth music, very much rooted in that gospel upbringing that she has, but the truth element starts to become protest music. As we move into the 60s and 70s, she's actually singing about civil rights. She's singing about her opposition to the war in Vietnam. And so spiritual and truth music is really where she sits. You can see here she is at folk life festivals. She starts to get a little bit more prominence in the folk world. Kind of in her 60s. So as she moves into this civil rights era, she's going to start playing all around Washington, D.C. She'll actually start touring in the 70s and 80s, including going to Europe for a big European tour. She also, through some grant money meant to preserve kind of folk music, she'll actually record several albums. So we do have Flora Molton music. So she's a busker, but because of kind of the length of her career and the time span that she works in, we've been able to preserve some of it. There's a story that is maybe apocryphal. There's no evidence other than her telling it that one time the Rolling Stones came through Washington, D.C. to play. They heard her on the street, invited her to come jam with them after their show, and that she played like in this hotel room with the Rolling Stones, which I wish I could show you a video clip or an image from that, but none exist. I do want to give you, though, just a little sound clip to get an idea of her voice, which is really powerful, and her skill at playing. You can find a number of her music on YouTube, so it's very easy to find her songs. So we'll play that for you.
Where the circle beyond broken, by and by, by and by, there's a better home waiting in the sky, in the sky. I saw the old hearse from my window, and my door one gloomy day.
So I think that's just a nice little snippet of what she sounded like vocally. You can hear that tambourine that, again, she's just playing on her foot. And you can see her guitar, which is echoed in the Callbox sculpture. She died in 1990 in her 80s. Flora Molton, just an incredible musician. Okay, sorry. Every time. Okay.